if you're thinking about kayak fishing, do it.
That's a good one.
Agreed.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of the Kayak Bass Connection podcast. This is a place for anglers of all skill levels that share our passion for kayak fishing. I'm your host, Jared. I'm just an angler like yourself. In today's episode, we feature our very first Winner's Circle segment. Now, the idea behind the Winner's Circle segment is that we're going to sit down with winning tournament anglers, and talk to them about what separates them from the rest of the field during their tournament performance. If you want to improve as an angler, these Winner's Circle segments will be just a ticket. Today, we are lucky to have 2 recent winners from the Southern Illinois Kayak Club Bass Trail from Coffeen Lake, Illinois. This is a late June tournament. First place finisher Jonathan Kessler and third place finisher Jake Schultz have cashed a lot of checks. They've taken a lot of my money, I know that, and they gave up some great tips during this interview. The Kayak Bass Connection podcast is just getting started, so please help promote the sport and promote the podcast by looking for the Kayak Bass Connection podcast on your favorite social media site, and also subscribing to the podcast on Spotify. Hey, without further ado, let's get to the winners. All right, welcome everybody to the first edition of the Winner's Circle. So, as promised, we've got the top 3 finishers from last weekend's Derby here in Central Illinois down at Coffeen Lake. So, I want to welcome to the podcast Jonathan Kessler. Jonathan was the winner last weekend with 94 inches. We also got second place finisher Jake Schultz, who had 85.5 inches, which is really interesting because third place Kevin Cox also had 85.5 inches. Talk about a close weekend. The only thing that separated second and third was the largest bass. So that's exactly how tight competition is there. So guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm going to ask each one of you just to introduce yourself real quick. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, John Kessler. I actually reside in Missouri, but I'm down in Jackson, Missouri, which is along the Mississippi River. So it's actually a little bit easier to come over and fish in Illinois than it is to come try to go up into Moyac or into some of those central Missouri lakes. So I'm really happy that we have the league, and glad that I've been a part of it for the last couple of years.
Awesome. Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you come from?
Yes, sir. I reside up here in Gardner, Illinois. A lot of strip pits up here, a lot of old coal mining quarries. So traveling down southern Illinois is not too bad. Generally, it's a 3-hour drive down there.
Okay, awesome.
I was going to say the question was sort of, did things go like you planned? And I'd say we actually fished Coffeen last year in June, and I went in with it with the same game plan that I had last year. So it was I expected it to be sort of slow and steady. So it was obviously a good game plan, but I would say things went exactly how I expected them, kind of as I game planned based on last year. So
yeah. Now you start out with a plan, and I always like the quote that all plans are great until you get your first punch in the face, right? And your plans can go out the window. So what kind of metric do you use when you're on the water and you go in and you say, I think they're going to be shallow or close to wood or something like that? What do you look for to realize that, hey, I've got to change my game plan?
Well, pre-fishing is a big part of having confidence in the game plan. So if you catch fish pre-fishing, the important thing to always remember in my mind is if you caught fish there, there's fish there. And And if you catch one fish there, don't leave fish to find fish. So I think my first fish came maybe about 40 minutes into the tournament or 30 minutes into the tournament. And that kind of gave me that reassurance at this tournament. Normally though, I'd say I usually go into it with an A, B, and C type of mentality. So I might have 2 or 3 game plans. And if plan A, going into that, I might go, okay, it's going to be this for an hour and a half. And if I don't see anything in an hour and a half, then I'm going to go to B. And if I don't see anything, and I might give B 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. And I just kind of keep going through. And sometimes you have 3 or 4 solid plans, kind of backup plans, and sometimes you don't. I would say Coffeen was one where it was pretty easy to game plan, but St. Christ 2-3 weeks ago was, I'd say my B. I had okay luck with A, and then it started to slow down on that pattern, and I switched to B, and then B was nothing for about 5 hours in the middle of the day. So, sometimes sometimes you leave too early.
I went through A through Z through St. Chris. It was a slow one for me.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, they had some unusual weather before we got in there. I had tried to pre-fish that about 2 weeks beforehand, kind of refresh my memory of that lake. And I went in there; they had gotten 5 inches of rain with a strange storm cell, and the ramps were underwater and everything else. So, and then I didn't make it to the actual derby. But so, Jake, you back with us? Can you hear us now?
I gotcha.
All right, awesome. So I'm just going to ask you, whenever you show up to a lake like that and you're starting to, you're leaving the ramp, what's one of the things on your mind when you're leaving the ramp, after the pedal goes to the metal, and you're actually headed to a spot? Are there any things that you keep as a priority in your mind that, hey, listen, I got to do this, this, and this?
So I changed it up this week. St. Chris, I got some pre-fishing in. Was able to find some fish. And then that's the way I went. In this case, I used my past year experience finish same time last year. Yeah. And I just remembered where I found fish last year and just went with it. And no pre-fisherman this time. So basically I went off past experience, which probably isn't the best idea, but that's all I had when just coming in blind.
Yeah. Yeah, because last year the tournament was almost the same week. I think it was the same week of the year, the same lake. That doesn't happen very often. So did you see?
So
go ahead.
Pretty much chunk fished. I pretty much chunk fished all day. I mean, I show up. I got 12 to 13 or 11, 12 rods with me, and going blind basically, and try to pre-fish and fish at the same time.
Yeah. So you've got all those.
I think it might have been around 8 o'clock or so. I remember looking to my north about 100 to 200 yards, and I saw Jake out there kind of looking like he was doing a similar pattern to me. I got a little bit scared for a second.
That's understandable.
It was really hard not to go out there when you hear Kessler and Hemker out there just yelling.
I didn't realize that was you guys. I think I may have heard you guys.
Shallow bite all day.
I went shallow for a little bit and kind of find those grass patches, and nothing was there. So after seeing you guys going fish for fish, and just kind of milled out there for a little bit and caught two or three, and was able to fill out a limit after that going shallow, but it definitely helped going out deep first thing in the morning.
Well, yeah,
which is unusual, right? I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can prove that theory because I
think those fish are just setting up on the sides there.
So one question I wanted to throw out there in general terms. So what do you guys do to prepare for your next tournament? Whenever you see a lake coming up, is there any specific steps that you take to start to formulate that game plan? Like John talked about having A, B, and C.
Well, Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it may not start. It kind of depends on the time of the year. So first thing is you look at time of the year. You try to take a guess at what sort of pattern you're going to be in. If it's pre-spawn or spawn or post-spawn, summer pattern, um, and then in particular this time of year, say looking at the next tournament, typically I'd be looking at contour maps and looking for sort of spots that match the right sort of contours, kind of highlight some spots. This time of year, you're looking for points, certain depths, and then I'll actually sit down and X those out. And then if I have an opportunity to pre-fish, I'll just go an hour at each one of those spots and just see, how many bites, how many fish I catch per hour, and then that kind of gives me my that gives me this time of year. But that type of mentality changes drastically once the pattern changes a little bit.
Okay. So Jake,
I'd agree with the contour maps. I do a lot of. I probably want to see a lot of these lakes. I've seen a couple. Newton, St. Chris, those are common ones. But Kincaid I missed. But I still do a lot of research during the winter time or when the schedule first comes out. So contour maps, I might go by the 5 or 6 that we have on the schedule, and then YouTube videos. I just try to find within a month, the few weeks of the time we're going to be there, just to see what the water looks like. I mean, it's not going to be exact when we come down there, but at least it gives you an idea of, hey, grass, wood, what you're looking at when you get to the lake.
Yeah, the clarity of the water is a huge kind of a huge thing to add, and that's hard to judge if you don't have an opportunity to pre-fish. But most of the lakes we fish have really similar colors, and they kind of clear up around the same time of the year. And so, but like there is I would say like the St. Chris tournament in particular is probably the hardest tournament to plan for, because you're in that transition where you might be switching colors based on water clarity. You're also in the post-spawn transition. Yes, St. Chris was such a mess.
It's very hard when you get those cooling lake style lakes too.
Yeah.
You get the water temp could vary 10, 15 degrees depending on how hard the plants are drawn.
Right.
So really, your wins, both of you, which of course is a very close contest here. Both of you are telling me that win didn't start on that Saturday morning. It's something that starts maybe months before that, and you're pre-planning.
Oh, absolutely. I get lucky. Newton's only 2.5 hours for me, so that one's a common one for me to go to. But the rest of them's kind of a 3 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get lucky with the Newton one, just because I have a lot of hours on that.
Yeah,
some of them, take Kincaid for example. There's a lot of luck. There's some luck there. I'm pretty close to Kincaid and was able to pre-fish it a couple times in the weeks leading up. But you go there once, and like the first day I went there was maybe a week and a half out, and there was literally there's just spawning bass, spawning bluegill. The shallows are all cleared out from beds. If you throw anything in the shallow water, you're basically going to get a bite. And literally 4 days later, that entire pattern almost disappears in just like 4 to 5 days. Suddenly, all that is filled back up with grass. The bass are cleared out. There's still resident bluegill, some resident bass, but I think all the people that placed in that tournament ended up fishing sort of deeper ledges with looking for sort of those fry garters and post-spawn bass. And that's just 7 days. Plan A goes out the window.
I mean, it's crazy. I've seen it change within a day.
Yeah.
A mile or 2 miles an hour just changes if they want to move shallow or move deep. And that bite was totally different than the day previous. So, you show up for an afternoon pre-fishing and they're nowhere to being shallow. And then you come the next day and you can't keep them off the hook being shallow.
Definitely.
Yeah, you mentioned 1 or 2 miles an hour. Are you talking about the wind picking up? And what does that change for you when the wind picks up?
I'd say wind speed, or current. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't really
even at Coffeen, and sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm talking over you. There's just that little delay, but
no.
Even at Coffeen this last weekend, there was no wind for maybe about 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then there was a period at around maybe noon. The wind really started to pick up, and I didn't change much throughout the day. I pretty much stayed on 1 or 2 points, kind of went back and forth a little bit, but there was a period when you could pick up a nice chatterbait bite along the grass when that wind really started to sort of just cause those ripples on the waves, and it would really started blowing in on that southern point. And I pulled out like a swim bait and threw it deep where I was fishing the whole day, and started getting bites on a swim bait a little bit. So just that change in from 1 hour to the next when that wind picks up, making a subtle change can make it, find you a fish or two for sure.
Now, is there any of the lakes that are usually on the sixth tournament schedule that involve any current?
I'd say nothing river like, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say power lake or power plant lake or coal plant, that kind of current. So it's very slight, I would say.
Yeah, I would say, there aren't many. I mean, I will say if there's one that's going to fish differently, it's going to be Devil's Kitchen, but not because of current.
Yeah, I've heard a few remarks about that. The forecast from the DNR on the creel survey doesn't sound real encouraging.
No, it's been a year or two since I fished Devil's Kitchen, but it's not a big bass fishery, but it's beautiful. It's very clear water. It's unlike anything. And most of the lakes we fish are 1 foot to 2 foot visibility most of the time. You might get up to 3 or 4 in the middle of the summer, but it's possible the Devil's Kitchen might have 10 or 15 foot visibility, and it also you might see a cypress tree on your down scan in 100 foot of water. Which is really, really special.
Yeah. But that's the one thing that has really surprised me. I grew up in Illinois, and but I've never spent a lot of time in Southern Illinois. And one of the benefits to joining a tournament trail like this is that it kind of forces you to get out of your comfort zone and fish where you haven't before. And I've really enjoyed some of these lakes. Are just beautiful. Cedar, for example, it's 4 hours from my door, but it's a real gem to visit. So much so that after I'd fished at a couple tournaments there, my wife and I planned a vacation in the area just so we could take our kayaks out for a couple days. It's completely different from what anything we have in Central.
Catch some 7-pounders.
Yeah. Not that anybody would do that there, right? So,
or 11 according to their tournament charts.
Yeah. I think they said that was the top fish. What was it, last year?
Well, the last 2 years they posted fish over 10 pounds on the boat tournament reports.
Man,
maybe take that with a grain of salt or not, but
yeah,
it's impressive.
So that was something else I wanted to bring up. We did have at the same time this last weekend, we had a boat tournament that was launched shortly after we did from the same ramp. Thankfully, the body of water is small enough that, they're small boats with 25 horsepower or less on them. But it was a stark difference to me whenever we were doing our tournament recap, weigh-in, if you'll call it, at the end of the day, when we saw their boats pulling in, and it was pretty miserably hot that afternoon. And I just couldn't help but think of all the fish that were in those live wells and probably had been there for a while that they were going to pull out and what the fate of those fish would be. What do you think there's any chance that the big boat world is probably going to have to take a look at the catch photo release system that kayaks are using now?
I don't think bass will, but I think MLF might. Like in terms of at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
I think bass has way too much money invested in their live weigh-ins. I mean, it's the way it looks to me. Bass has a big conference sort of surrounding the weigh-ins at usually a big, large conference center at all the elite events anyway, obviously, right? So I think it'd be a good time before bass ever changes their format. MLF already does some things to try to prevent live fish from sitting in live wells. I do wish there were some rules changed in the state of Illinois to sort of, I think, we are subject to some regulations, I think, that are meant to try to help the fish for bass boats, and doesn't really apply to us. But it'd be nice to see kayaks be considered a little bit, some of those regulations and fees. But I don't think there'll be a change, not for a long time.
I could see maybe some states making some change. I thought I remember seeing something, and I thought Illinois was implementing maybe within the next year or two about keeper live well tournaments in the hot summer months. So they're going to try to keep those tournaments down in the state. But I could be wrong, but I thought I remember reading something about that.
I know that Newton already does that. So Newton, because the water's already really hot, Newton does not allow tournaments in is it June, July, and August?
It's something like that.
We actually were just looking at this today. Me and Dustin were actually taking and diving into that, why that was. There seemed to be some confusion because somebody seemed to think it was like hunting season or something, and I'm like, there's no hunting season in June or July. So we looked it up, and in long standing, it was just whenever the power plant was running full time, the water was really hot and it was really hard on the fish. So they just decided to take the boat pressure off for those 3 months. So I think maybe that's a good strategy if you're in a discharge lake where there is a lot of heat already. I would rather see them manage things better in terms of reducing, like kind of spacing out the traffic a little bit. I think they had 90 boats approved at Coffeen, and I know that we didn't have 90 boats, but if for example we maxed our capacity and the boat tournament maxed their capacity, besides there not being enough even parking spots at the ramp, that'd be an incredible amount of pressure on the fish in a really hot month. For there to be 90 boats out there catching fish on a lake that size. So I think there's maybe some small changes to managing that could just kind of help benefit benefit the ecosystem a little bit.
Yeah, I hope they do look at protecting the resource a little more, because what I see is, especially post COVID, I mean, thankfully there's a lot more people out fishing, and a lot more pressure on all those fisheries. And they're not building any new fisheries in Illinois, really, or making any new public water. So it just continues to draw more and more, puts more and more stress on the fisheries we have. So I don't know. It'd be a great conversation to have with biologists that I'd like to have sometime, maybe on the podcast here.
That being said, I do think that they've, and I haven't been involved for very long, but in the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, I think that the state and the managers and I think they have done a good job with what they're given, right? Cedar seems to be really healthy. Newton continues to just impress year after year after year. I think Newton even made basses. It might have been in like the top 40 in the Midwest region or the middle region for their 100 lake list. And
that was actually like 24 or 25, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Sankrist seems to get better year after year. So it's just the lakes that are kind of regularly on our tournament series, I feel like every single year we go back, they're stable. There's good populations of fish to catch. So, I say kudos to the Illinois IDNR, I think, and the local
that's the correct organization. People, so. Yeah. So have you guys seen any changes in the kayak tournament space that you think have really benefited the sport in the last few years? And both of you have been kayak fishing and tournament fishing for a few years, have certainly been successful. But have you seen anything change either rule wise or equipment wise that you think has helped move the popularity forward on kayak fishing?
Was it Jake an opportunity? I think he's been doing this maybe a little longer.
To think, besides just being the, it's a cheaper route. It's pretty easy to get around. You don't have to pay for gas as much. I mean, for truck, but social media has been huge, pushing it. These podcasts, stuff like that. It seems like every time I go on YouTube or something like that, they're always talking about the push for kayak fishing or new ways to get on the water.
Yeah, and I'd say, going back to what got me involved, it's COVID, and I was fortunate enough to receive a stimulus check, and I was also fortunate enough to still have to maintain a job throughout that period. So I took that stimulus check and invested it into this sport, to be honest. Didn't have a kayak, used my stimulus check to buy my first kayak. I think technology has come a long way to make it more convenient, make it more comfortable for different people. I think it would have been sort of considered a young person sport maybe 5 years ago without pedal drives and without, all the holders and electronics and the kind of things that can make it a little bit more comfortable. I mean, kayak seats have the comfort, how comfortable a kayak seat, how high a kayak seat sits. All those things have, I think, evolved a lot in just 3 or 4 years, and makes it a lot more accessible. Some of those things don't make it cheaper, but and if there's something that's changed that's hurt it at the same time, it is probably also the advancement in technology. I think when I started, there were 2 people regularly that ran some kind of trolling motor or motor in the tournaments regularly, and I think now, I bet you half the field probably has some type of motor. Maybe not half the field, but a third of the field has a trolling motor, which can and has its advantages and disadvantages. But that's the negative side to that is that if you're just getting into it, it's a little bit harder, right? It's a little bit harder to compete. So, if somebody was just getting into this, I always kind of say, just enjoy it for the sport. Don't think you're going to come in and win a bunch of money.
I think that's big just in general is get to know some guys around the area, even if it's just local or like me, I travel a little bit, but get to know those guys down there. You learn new lakes, you learn new techniques, and it seems like the kayak guys are really easygoing for the most part. I'd say 95 to 99% of the time, it's really easy. Like, hey, what are you guys catching them on? And you learn a lot more, and there's a big community that are willing to help everybody else. And I think that helps push, people to get on the water and push that kayak scene as well.
Yeah, I think I might have made a huge mistake this weekend. I let Hemker fish next to me all day. And I think, watching his results from this little monthly or this daily event that he just did, I think he might have learned how to fish a jig, and it scares me.
I've seen his 5 fish tonight too. He put them on the board tonight. That's for sure.
So, no, but along those lines, yeah, like routinely I fish side by side in a kayak. I mean, I think at my spot this weekend, I know Josh, the league director, he fished next to me for several hours, and Himker fished next to me for several hours, and Tipton fished next to me for several hours, and that's fine. If a boat comes up, I might get a little lippy, but but no, we're real friendly. Talk about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you might consider changing. I think that's a huge thing. The way the boats act, I cannot see that happening in any remote way if you're in a boat tournament.
Take shots at boat. I think the big thing is like kayaks just can't get up and run away 20 miles. It's 100 yards is going to be far, especially. I mean, Kevin. I mean, he paddled all day on that Saturday. It got windy, but he pushed through it and did pretty good. I mean, had me nervous up there at the top 3, but not like we can't just run away from the guys. We're kind of stuck next to each other at times.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and it was interesting in this tournament is that the 1, 2, and 3 finishers you had. Now, John, you're in a Hobie, right? So you're pedal powered.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Jake, you're in an autopilot. So you're like me playing with the remote control all day, right?
Yes, sir.
And then Kevin, I talked to him earlier today. I mean, he was paddling. So right there, you've got your top 3 finishers. We're using 3 different really modes of different types of kayaks with different propulsion. So it's doable, regardless of what you're using. And yeah, I think it may be a little steeper climb for somebody that is using a paddle. But I know I've certainly got my behind kicked in several tournaments this year with people with paddles and 2 poles.
I always say there's different styles of fishing, right? And being in a kayak can definitely influence the type of style that you can fish. I think maybe I'm out of line here, but Jake can correct me. I think Jake prescribes a little bit more to like a Kevin Van Dam style of, move and burn and cover water.
Oh, I am covering water, that's for sure.
and I'm not afraid, and this is a consequence maybe of being on a kayak. I am not afraid to sit in the same spot for 8 hours. I'll travel 4 or 5 miles at the beginning of a tournament to get to a spot that I think's favorable, but I'm not afraid to sit there for 8 hours, which is pretty much what I've done almost in every tournament, except for when I maybe go from plan A to plan B. That might involve some travel, but
I like spending my fair share of time on certain points or some, certain trees and whatnot. So I started off in a boat, being a co-angler, doing partner tournaments, and I was fished with my buddy. We were both running gun, so we'd come in, fish a spot, run out.
Yep.
So that kind of turned me into what I am now. So I try to find that spot within a spot, and sometimes I get a little carried away, and I only catch 3 fish, kind of like what I done in St. Chris. But I'm definitely a running gun kind of person.
And I think again, I don't want to speak for Kevin at all, but my impression is that he's a very, very patient fisherman, and and those styles, you can see how right at the top, like you said, not only is the diversity of the kayaks, but there's a very different style in each spot that shows up at the top of the tournament, and that's always really interesting.
Yeah. That's good competition for everyone. No matter what kind of style you have, you've got a choice, a chance of cashing a check on this tournament trail, and that's one of the great things about it. So I just want to add a couple more questions, guys, before we close the conversation tonight. But the first one, is hopefully we have some people listening tonight that are maybe interested in getting involved in the tournament trail, or just maybe taking that first leap to get off the bank and buy themselves a kayak to get on the water. As far as fishing techniques and fishing advice, do you have any one piece of advice that you would give a new new angler that is just pushed off the bank for the first time and is wanting to catch some bass?
Jake,
I'd be. It's tough for me to say it, but I'd say patient. Have a system. I mean, boat's not too bad, but when you're in a kayak, you're kind of narrowed down to your tackle. Get your strengths. I'm a power fishing kind of guy, so I have my rods usually rigged up to what I think I'm going to be using and catching fish that day, and then I'll vary those colors. So be patient, have a system, and then you also you want to be quick and efficient. So you want to be able to make those changes, colors, different presentations.
Colors. I always think we underestimate. You said presentation. I'll small features, right? How much action something has, how much what its size is, right? And I think there's a propensity that when you're not catching fish, people tend to always downsize and pay attention to the time of the year, because there's sometimes when, if they're not biting, upsizing is going to help you. But those small changes. But the other thing is, if you're not in a motor, if you're not in a pedal, slow down. And when I say slow down, I don't mean slow down your motions, slow down your lure. I think when people first get out there and you're on the water, if you're not familiar with a boat or a kayak and you're familiar with fishing from shore, I think people tend to speed it up. And I've seen fishermen go from like paddling to pedaling, and it doesn't seem like it's a big transition, and it seems like it should be helping you, but they speed things up whenever their hands are free. And when they make that change and they speed things up too much, if they're fishing a jig or a Texas rig or something, they're missing bites a lot of times. So I say if that's the technique that you're using, don't be afraid to be just patient with it.
And I would like to add on, Kessler, like you said, presentation, like you added, stand out. How many bluegill were up shallow? I don't know if you've seen all the bluegill that were up shallow down in Coffeen, but there was thousands. And I was throwing a little swim jig, and I was almost blending in too much. I'm blending into where I'm trying to make a bass bite something that is fake when they have the real thing right next to
Lots of it. Yep.
So try to stand out. If it's a little bit of purple instead of all green pumpkin, or blue or something like that, definitely don't be afraid to stand out and throw something kind of abstract.
Great advice, guys.
Small as the changes that it was, I had two jigs. Yeah, I had two jigs tied on, and one had the only difference between the two rods was a little gold flake versus a little blue flake.
Wow.
That small change could make a difference in like 6 or 7 bites per couple hours.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty significant when you're only eating 5 good fish. So we got our next tournament stop for the Southern Illinois Kayak Club is Banner Marsh. Have you guys fished there before, and what kind of impressions were you left with if you have been?
I have not, but I know that Jake has. So
I've been there a few times. Make sure you got a pair of fish grips. Might getting some toothy critter muskies down there. But definitely get ready for some good sized fish.
Yeah, Banner Marsh, I've only fished there twice and I've been dying to get back. And definitely they've got a pretty good population of muskie there. It's a very, very unique fishery because it's a strip mining operation that's been flooded. So there's some. It's not anything like the natural lakes that we usually fish on the trail. So it should be pretty interesting. See what comes out of there. I know there's some.
I guess I haven't looked at the rules and regulations yet for what. Is it going to be anything open, or is it certain lakes?
There's at least I think I heard that we had at least 3 lakes approved, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think they have to be approved individually, and I think we've had 3 approved. I don't know if there's others though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I don't have any experience on Banner, but I have some experience at Peabody and do some strip hits. And I strip hits are always a special. You're always looking for something that's unique, but it's not the same. It's not even remotely close to the same thing you're looking for in a highland reservoir.
Those lakes reservoir. Are weird.
Yeah,
those lakes are weird too, because you'll have one little gravel road that splits the two lakes, and you'll find a pattern, and it will not work in the neighboring pond. It's totally different.
Yeah.
You might have one lake that's biting, and the next lake just kind of stagnant and no bites.
I think there's fishermen that say even the normal lakes feel that.
That's probably true too.
In the sense that I've seen some, there's days where I'm like, how are you not catching 20 fish? And I still see, I still see the bottom of the group.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see one or more of you back on the podcast after our next tournament at Banner Marsh. I know that you guys, all three of you, constantly finish, in the top section in the tournament. And that's one thing I've noticed, that you can almost forecast the finish at most of the tournaments that I've been to anyway. There's a select group, about half a dozen people that are going to definitely be in the money one way or the other, just because of their skill set. So we appreciate both of you guys, and all three of you. I know that Kevin's been trying to get on here and having some technical difficulties, but I appreciate you guys taking time out on your Thursday night and helping share a little information about how you reached the success that you did in our last tournament. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up, guys?
If you're thinking about kayak fishing, do it.
That's a good one.
Agreed. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, better than dragging and filling up a 21-foot Ranger with premium fuel.
Yes. Yes.
You got more money to spend on tackle. That's what you get.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Guys, I really appreciate your time, and it's been a joy fishing with both of you and getting to know you a little bit. And you guys both represent the club incredibly well. So safe travels, and we'll see you at the lake next time.
Thank you. See you at the lake.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for inviting me on.
All right. Take it easy, guys. All right, that's a wrap for our very first interview. Thanks to John and Jake for making this a great kickoff for the podcast. The creation of this thing has been a really interesting personal journey for me. Learned a lot about what to do and not to do to try to create these types of recordings. Stick with us and you'll see a little improvement on some of the processes we're using here. I would like to offer a special thank you, though, to Joshua Lincoln, tournament director of the Southern Illinois Kayak Club, not only for all the work he does for the tournament, but he has been real supportive as well in our first episode here. If you'd like to learn more about the Southern Illinois Kayak Club, visit their website at sikcfishing.com. That's sikcfishing.com. Until next time, remember, today's a gift. Tomorrow is a mystery. Just go fishing.